All right. Hello. Welcome to Real Magic Review. I'm trying to be moody and funny. Look at that. There's something going on there, isn't there? What's going on at the bottom of this? Is that... Hang on. There you go. A little naughty webcam sneaking into the shot there. Welcome to Real Magic Review. My name is Steve Faulkner. Before we carry on and talk about feedback, I'm going to ask you after this to go and have a look at online magic. If I say Real Magic Review then. onlinemagic.co. Let's press the right button. That's my online magic course, over 600 videos, 93 live sessions now. And tonight we've got Steve Reynolds coming, which is very exciting. Steve coaches me. There's me doing one of the weekly live sessions. Come and hang out with me every week. And there's a coin magic and rope magic just been put on the course. $9.99 a month. It's a coffee a week. It's ridiculous value. And nearly all of it is downloadable, except for the live sessions because of privacy and stuff. So thanks for that. That wasn't very long, was it? That was about 10 seconds. Am I in sync? Tell me if it's all working all right. Can you hear me? Am I in sync? Is everything good? Because I haven't done this for a couple of weeks. Oh, and like and subscribe, I suppose. I'll say that if you want to do that and share it and talk to people about it. Yeah, I haven't... 2 coffees up here. There you go. That's all right. That's good. Well, $9.99 a month. I don't want to go on about this. I'll get told off again. $9.99 a month. Yeah, I pay that £3 for a coffee. So but blimey. So yeah, 2 coffees, you're right, isn't it? So about £4 for a coffee somewhere. Anyway, thanks for letting me know all is good. I see I'm out of sync slightly to myself, so it's freaking me out a bit. I'm not enjoying it. I can't look at myself. Don't like it. It's like hearing your voice when you're on the phone with someone. Even that slight, if you can hear your voice come back at you, even if it's just slightly, and you think it shouldn't bother me at all, and I have to put a stop to it. Can't bear it. Hey, morning, Colin. Hope it's all right in Canada. I want to come out there. Please find an excuse for me to do so, and a way of me coming out and seeing you in Canada without spending any money. Be great. Thanks. Let's work that magic, shall we? And I want to go to America as well. Thanks. I want to go to Magic Live next year. I want to do all sorts of stuff, but ain't got loads of money. Got 2 kids and things to think about. Oh, blimey, I want to turn my emails off. That's making a pinging noise. Yes, so I wasn't talking about stuff probably. I got, thanks, Dal said he came to the show. I did my show last week. Yeah, that's why I haven't done one for a couple of weeks. So I hosted a big awards ceremony, the same awards ceremony that I hosted when I did the Michael Jackson Gate. Michael Jackson trick. If you haven't watched that, watch my fail. It's funny. I think it's quite funny. I'm going to write a talk about it as well. Not about that, but about failure, because I think it's a very important thing. And talking about my show, which was Thursday. Thanks for coming, Dal. I nosed up a trick. I got a trick wrong. I was so gutted. I'm going to talk about it properly, but I did a trick and it all worked. And then at the end, it all kind of fell apart a little bit, which I was gutted about. But part of the process. It's all part of the process. And it's going to happen. That's how we learn. And talking about learning, feedback is, I think, it's a really, really important thing to talk about. So I have talked about this before in kind of my leadership training stuff that I do, or did. I do less of it now, but and I think it's an essential thing to understand. So this is sort of inspired by my own response to constructive criticism. I'm not talking about haters, and I'm not talking about trolls. Troll. Was it a stand-up comedian said, you say tomato, I say tomato, you say potato, and nobody says potato. It's great. Oh, some people that might not know the song and not know what I'm talking about, but let's call the whole thing off anyway. So yes, so my own response to, yes, I'm not on about haters or trolls or people that just come on and just want to, and I'm very lucky. Now, I don't get much at all of negativity. I'm not saying it's because I'm great or anything like that, but it's just, it's quite a niche channel, isn't it? So I don't have to deal with much of this, and I know some people do, and I really don't. It must be very, very difficult. My own response to constructive criticism is this, and the reason I'm talking about it is because I think one of the ways of dealing with criticism or feedback, even respectfully, is to understand your own responses. So the first way of receiving it well is to be self-aware. Now, a little story. I remember when I started my leadership training, I was trained up by a guy called Richard Field, Peter McNabb, wonderful people. And the deal was that the first time I did any training with clients as part of our leadership course, we would go to the pub and they would give me feedback, and they would give me what's called the sandwich, which was, we all know we were doing it, two positive points, positive point, something that needs work in the middle, and another positive point. And I knew that was happening, so I was expecting it. And then the minute they gave me the negative or whatever, I started kicking back. I started sort of making excuses. Well, that's because I'm tired. Or that's because I didn't know this. That's because I didn't know that. And they sort of said, we all had a chat and said, well, you do that quite a lot, Steve. When we give you that feedback, you kick back on it. And from that point onwards, I've been very, very aware of that. When anybody says anything that might be really respectful and helpful, that is a bit of negative feedback, and I put it in them because it's not a negative thing. We've got to look at it differently, which I will chat about in a minute. And with magic, it's so important. But when people give me, my tendency is to kick back, to respond with excuses, to feel internally angry. I never get angry. Well, maybe I do a little bit, but only slightly verbally. But to start making excuses, to start giving reasons why they're wrong, to start kind of justifying the reason I may not have done something too well, rather than just taking it, go, thanks very much. Now, I know that is my response, and that's why I don't do it as much anymore. What I tend to do now is listen, go off, feel all upset, and then let it sink in, and then usually act on it, even though I'm not happy about it. That's usually the case, but not always. So the first step, the very first step to receiving feedback in positive and negative way is to really want it, right? There is nothing more helpful than constructive criticism and finding people that will be brutally honest with you. And I still see it now, and I'm not going to mention any names, and I never will, but I've seen respected magicians do stuff, get lauded for it, and get everybody saying how wonderful it is. And I'm looking at it going, now I know that wasn't wonderful. I know that there was flashing all over the place, it was all over the place, but there's something happening here. And I don't know whether it's a kind of Emperor's New Clothes thing. It doesn't happen very often, but what I'm saying is I've seen it. And it's almost like we're looking at different things. Now, of course, it's very subjective. Saying that someone is good or not, it can be whether you enjoy them or not, which is, that's just like food. Some people like it, some people don't. But there are objective things we can look at, like was it convincing? Why are people flashing? Why can you see that the trick is exposed? So I think that it's to find people that will tell us. I remember seeing a video of me doing a coin vanish after I've been doing this vanish for about 7 years, and I was flashing all over the place. I never watched it on video. I was so convinced it was good. And that was the most brutal feedback. I couldn't get moody about that because it was just a video. But it's that same sort of thing. We have to seek it out, and we have to look for it, and we have to find people that and say to them, look, I don't want you just to say it was good. Okay, there are people that will do that. What I want you to do is pick this apart. Now, I'll just read a bit of feedback that I got. And this is it's no way a criticism. I can even say in no way then. A criticism of this feedback at all. I'm reading it out because I think it's an interesting thing. So I'm going to presume he doesn't mind because he put it on the channel. Carlos Hampton, 1 minute. So this was the big picture review that I did. And I talk, as I did here, I talk about the course, and I have a little chat, a little ramble about something related before I review the thing. 1 minute and 45 seconds before you start talking about it. Please value your viewers' time as much as we do value yours. So my first response to that was, I was quite upset, really, not in a kind of poor me way, but I felt internally quite angry. I felt like I wanted to say a lot of things to this person. I felt like I wanted to justify it, and I very nearly did. In fact, I started writing the reply and stopped myself and thought, no, you've got to practice what you preach here. So all I replied is that a long time? Now, I was being a bit snarky because 1 minute and 45 seconds is 1 minute and 45 seconds, but it wasn't as snarky as I was going to get. And then the response to that is, it's 1 minute and 45, way too long without any meat. I understand that you need to promote your businesses, but in my opinion, need to keep the videos moving and efficient into the subject at hand. Smiley face. So it's been friendly. You want to talk about Magic Live, do a different video. If you're talking about this particular piece, for me, it's sufficient if you tell me it was sold out piece at Magic Live and then move on to it. Time is money for everyone these days. Thanks for not only sharing the videos, but for taking feedback on them. Good luck. And which is, I think, is a really lovely thing. So first, in my defense, I think, well, okay, let's look at how to, it's an absolutely valid point, completely valid. I understand, and I'm very, very conscious of the fact that sometimes I waffle a bit too much, or it's subjective because people think they like it, but I talk about the course, and sometimes, you know, it's because I'm thinking, look, if this course doesn't sell, I'm being totally transparent with you. If I don't do well enough on the course, this channel can't exist. I'm not being like, it's because obviously you don't get paid for this, and the only benefit I get from this, other than the joy of doing it, which I would do it for nothing and I always will do it, but I'm trying to make a living doing the course, and the two things are the things I want to do now. I want to perform, but not as much. So to do this and to do the course I want to be my main job. So this kind of feeds that, and this is my sort of platform for being able to tell people about it. But I'm very aware that can be way too long for some people, and people want to get on with it. So in my initial response, well, 1 minute 45 seconds is nothing. But then I thought, well, actually, in some contexts it is, isn't it? Like when I moved to London, I remember I used to get the tube, and when it used to say next train in 1.5 minutes, I used to go, or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, especially 5 minutes. I used to be like, why are people complaining? It's, you know, I come from the country, there's a bus every hour. And then after I've been living in London for a while, if I saw it and it said 2 minutes, I'd be like, oh, I've got to wait 2 minutes. So I kind of, it's easy to kick back like I was going to, but actually if I really think about it, I can kind of understand, especially if it's only a 6 or 7 minute video, or an 8 minute video, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, that's quite a big proportion of the video. So I kind of get it. Then I have to look at it and go, okay, even though I understand it, I've got a choice here. And this is where we get into your choices of receiving feedback. Now, people say, well, I say you've got to receive feedback graciously. That doesn't mean you have to agree to it. Now, you can take it on board and respectfully disagree, but what I wouldn't usually do is do that publicly and straight away. Like, I disagree with you, because it's actually taking someone a bit of time to give you that feedback. And actually, even if it upsets you, which it will a lot of the time, because nobody likes hearing it, it's important to look past your feelings and past your emotions and look at the meat, as he says, of what that feedback is telling you. And is it useful or not? So when you receive feedback, the three choices, well, there's loads of choices, but the three choices are, you accept it. So you take it on board, accept it, make a change, do whatever with it. You accept it and ignore it, or you explore it. Now, I think the exploration bit's really important, because we can, again, it stops us just responding and working on that emotional response, because that emotional response will come from our childhood. It will come from being told off. It will come from someone saying a certain thing in a certain way. That may have been a little bit like someone said something to you when you were a kid, and it is a trigger. So you can trigger a lot with feedback with people, because we're adults. We don't like being told this stuff. It's a very uncomfortable thing. So to explore it, what I would do really, go, okay, well, I'll take that on board. I'll ask people, or maybe, you know, and I'm in a good position. I can ask the audience and say, look, comment below if you think that's a problem. And it's quite a good situation to be in. But a lot of people aren't in that situation. So I would really maybe look back and stuff and go, how long am I doing? Ask other people. If I didn't have that, you know, maybe just email a few people and said, how do you feel about this? Be brutally honest with me, and see if there was a recurring pattern there. To me, it's almost like a film critique. Like if I hear a bad review of a film, I won't take that as gospel. But if I hear a film completely panned by every critic, again, I still might enjoy it, but I'll kind of be more likely to believe it and think there's something in that. And it's the same with this, because it could be just a subjective opinion, or it could be an objective thing of, no, this percentage is that and that's too much. And I think exploring that and exploring your own response to it is an important thing. Part of that, I think, is when you get feedback. For me, the rule usually is always to accept it, whether I'm going to ignore it or not, and always explore it a little bit. But importantly, give it time. Don't start exploring it at that point then, because a lot of the time it will be confirmation bias. You'll be looking for reasons why they are wrong, rather than looking for reasons why they might be right, because you're trying to, and I've done that many, many times. I've kind of looked at things and gone, no, they're wrong. And there's no benefit from really proving someone wrong. You know, it's someone's feedback, it's there. A good way to look at it is feedback not being positive or negative, but being something that goes into the system that can or may not be useful, and, or may not be acted upon. So I think thanking someone always, unless they're very rude, which this person wasn't rude at all. It was, yes, a little bit, I was a bit like, that presumption of me not respecting someone's time niggled me a little bit, because again, that's an assumption, and that's a kind of subjective thing, because that's an assumption. So I think always look for the deeper issue in feedback, always look for feedback. But I will talk a little bit about giving feedback, because even if someone has asked you for feedback, it's important to understand the best ways of doing it. And there isn't really one best way of doing it for me. But what I will say is, sometimes I will ask people how they want their feedback. I'll say, look, do you want me to be brutally honest and just come out of it? Or do you want me to tell you the good things? And I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to create good things to soften it. But would you like me to do, or is there anything specific you want feedback on? Now, that's really important, because somebody may be very, like if I, I recorded a trick today, right? And it's always, when I record here, it's the first time I've ever done it. It's never going to be a good performance. So I don't really want feedback on the performance. But if there's anything that you go glaringly, oh, it would have been better if that would have happened, brilliant, But it's you don't want to give people feedback on something they're aware of, So first time I've done a show, it could need a bit of polish. Well, I'm not saying I wouldn't say that if it was a friend, but I might say, look, as you know, it could use a bit of polishing. But I think the thing is to be as specific as possible. And that actually is what Carlos was here. He was specific about what it was about. He wasn't saying, oh, your reviews bore me. He was saying 1 minute, 45 seconds. This is the problem I've got. And that's absolutely valid. The other thing is asking people how they want their feedback may be viable. But if you're not in that position, make sure you've got permission to give someone feedback, and you have permission on this. This is what the comments are for. I always ask for it. So again, Carlos hasn't done anything. I'm always saying feedback, anything, put it in the comments, and that's what happens. So that's completely fine. But sometimes you'll get people putting things online, and it's quite obvious they're not looking for feedback. They're just quite proud of themselves for working on a thing. So before you start commenting with, do this, do that, you should do this, that's no good, just be careful that person has asked for it, or there is a certain permission for it. Would you like some feedback for this? If so, DM me. Or you don't want to be, because it can be quite humiliating for people. They might be really proud of themselves, and then they've got all these people saying, that looks rubbish, that looks, and give people the respect that they've been brave enough or vulnerable enough to share something online in public. And your feedback needs to be a little bit more gentle, and ask permission for it. Don't just assume that people want your feedback, and look at where your feedback's coming from. If it's something that's glaringly obvious, maybe DM them and say, look, you might, and I've had this before, people say you might not want this, but it might be helpful if, so there's a kind of compassion to it. And I will say there's a lovely couple of quotes. One of them, my friend Richard, who was my mentor in kind of business and leadership and things like that, always used to teach, and it's what I say now. It's hard on the issue, gentle on the person. And it links to Stephen Covey's, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, courage and consideration. It's having the courage to say things that might be uncomfortable, but understanding that person is a human being with feelings, and it doesn't matter how their exterior might come across. They might be professional in the game for years and thick-skinned or whatever, but it doesn't mean they won't be hurt if things are said a certain way or triggered or something like that. So I would say understand, how would you feel if that was said to you? And if you do have to give them feedback, or they've asked for it, just sugarcoat it, but in a genuine way, not in a kind of fake way, because it's obvious when people are doing that. Oh, that was great, but most of it was terrible. That ain't going to work. But find the quality and the good in what people are doing, because it's always there, So I think that having that compassion and having that understanding is really important. So be honest, be specific, ask for permission, do it in a way that's compassionate, and it's a lot better. And that's been done here, like I said, a bit at the beginning, but at the end it was like, thank you very much. And that made a big difference to me. The fact that he said, and actually probably the only reason I'm doing this video, was he said, thanks for not only sharing the videos, but taking the feedback on them. And that one line was just changed the whole thing for me. It's someone that has actually thought about it, and I'm just giving feedback here. I'm just going to see if there's anything I've missed. No, only that there's a time and a place, I think, for... There's a couple of things that I've missed out. Time and a place for giving feedback. Don't just assume it's always the right time, because if someone's feeling, something's just happened, they've had a bad day, you don't want to start, rolling into it then. And also I'd say if you're receiving the feedback, one of the ways to explore it, like I said, is to paraphrase back to them, sort of feedback to them what you think they meant, and just say, can I clarify that that's it? And you might have misunderstood quite often. And I think that's really important to really understand what that feedback is. I think as well, going off topic a bit, I think one of the healthiest things you can do in a relationship, even if it's a close friendship, is to have times when you sit down and say, right, this is our time to be really honest about how things are going there. And you're getting feedback, and the deal is, and I used to do this, I still do it, the deal is that when you sit there and you might say, look, actually, I'm struggling a bit with this, you're not allowed, the rule is you're not allowed to kick back, you're not allowed to start making excuses, you've just got to listen, even if you disagree. And then if you want to discuss it later when emotions have gone down a bit, you can. It's such a healthy thing to do, and I think it would save marriages, I really, really do. So I thought I'd share that with you. I hope that was interesting. I think it's really important with magic, especially because we could be, sometimes we cannot see our own performances. We need that from other people. Let's have a look. Right, looking and sounding good. Thanks for everybody. That would be a real trick. What was that for? Let me know what that is. Did anyone notice? What was that? Learning to refrain criticism. This is Artemis Aiden 42. Learning to refrain criticism internally was an extremely difficult thing for me to learn. And I'm still learning to do it, both professionally and with my hobby magic. I think that it's always difficult. For me, it never gets... It's easier because I understand, and self-awareness is so important. I understand my own responses. And I do tell them to people. My partner, Juliana, I say to her, that was me doing that thing. You know that, right? It's that kickback. So even I know I'm doing it, but the emotions sometimes are so strong. If I feel strongly about it, that I know what they are, and what will happen is they'll manifest, but I'll get on top of them way quicker. I'll just go, look, I'm feeling this now, I just need to stop talking about this until the emotions have died down. And there's some really good physiology about this. If you're feeling stressed in any situation, and you feel that kind of response, walk away. If you can, walk away, give yourself some time, and sometimes it's a matter of minutes, and you see a whole new perspective on it. And it's basically something that actually happens to the brain. Apparently, and there is some arguments about this, but your prefrontal cortex, which is all the stuff that kind of makes us human and makes us reasonable and act logically, kind of goes offline when we're stressed. It gets overwhelmed, so we can't really make rational decisions when we're stressed. So if you are trying to make a decision about something, i.e. responding to a text message, a message, something that makes you feel a certain way, it's so much better to wait, and then give a measured response rather than, responding on that. And we've all done it. We've all written text messages when we're upset, and we can deeply regret it because sometimes you cannot unsend that thing. So it's a really important thing, I think. Always wait, absolutely, Tom. Oh, Steve, on topic of feedback, it's good to always listen, think about it, but we don't always have to do something. Absolutely. Thank people for taking their time. Let them know you think about it. Absolutely. And I think that if you're not going to do anything with it, you don't have to broadcast that as well. And don't get me wrong, I have done that many times. But, I'm glad you feel that way. I respect it. I may do something about it. I might not, So with this, it's an interesting one because I do get people saying, I love the fact that it's all rambling and we don't just talk about the product. And actually, for me, it's very important that I don't just talk about the product, that I get an anecdotal thing. So with and this isn't me kind of kicking back and making excuses. I'm kind of analysing it, trying in an objective way, which I have done now, because I asked myself the question, am I going to do that? Am I going to work on this and go, no, I'm going to cut that thing? And actually, no, I'm not, but I'm going to be more conscious of it. I'm going to be more conscious of going, actually, do I need to talk for that long about it? So my justification at the time with talking about why I was so frustrated about not getting to Magic Live was actually because I thought a lot of people might be feeling that way. And it's sometimes nice, especially in the UK, if you can't get to these things and you've seen people on Facebook at Magic Live. I felt genuinely jealous. I kind of made a joke about it, but I was, I was kind of upset I wasn't there. I'd have loved to have been there this year. and it would have been lovely. So there were times when I saw it and thought, I felt, you know, genuinely a little bit sad that wasn't there. So to share that in some way, or to hear someone say that, is sometimes good. And that was kind of my sort of soft justification. My other justification is that I just ramble too much. I'm good, thanks, Beg and Bros. Thanks very much. But we don't always have to explain ourselves. Absolutely. And of course, we tend to, right? It's quite a refreshing thing to understand that you don't need to explain yourself. But a lot of us fall into that because that's part of that insecurity, that kickback. We have to explain, we have to justify. There's a wonderful book called, it's about confirmation bias. It'll pop into my head. I'm not going to look it up because that's boring, isn't it? Confirmation bias book. It's great. I've read it and I quote from it a lot and I go back to it, and it's about kind of how we justify, we respond to certain things, and how we will, you know, also how we will find, if we look at something, we see what we want to see in it. There's a lovely quote again by Stephen Covey. We see the world not as it is, but how we are. So again, if you're feeling negative or insecure and you get a bit of negative feedback, it may seem more negative to you because you're feeling negative anyway. And when you're positive, you might look at it and go, actually, yeah, good point. So again, we've got to understand how what's that book called? How we respond. Mistakes were made, but not by me. Yeah, really just a fascinating book, and understanding nationally and internationally the profound effects of the way we think and our flawed perception. And sometimes it's just opinion, actually. I think it depends on the feedback. If it's actually feedback or just person being kind of a bully, like, you suck. Absolutely. And I think that Brandon, that's really important. And that goes back to that thing of being specific. You know, if you're going to say, don't just say, yeah, that was boring. Because, again, it's completely subjective. But it's also not very helpful. Because what's boring, you know, what is it about? So think a little bit before I'm not saying you don't, but, you know. Did you do a giveaway? No, but I haven't been here I haven't been here since that last one. Oh, I forgot anything. I'll have a look in a minute. Hang on. But I'm not going to give up. Don't give up, Lee. No one wants their baby called ugly. Make sure that you know they're open to feedback. Yeah. Could you? Yeah, it's like, look at my new baby. I'm so pleased. It looks the same as every other one. You know, you don't be. That's why I don't think people that say you've got to be honest with people and really transparent all the time. No, you haven't. You've got to look at the effect of what you're doing. You know, sometimes it's not worth it. I love these kind of talks. They go beyond just magic. Still totally applicable. I'm glad you think so. And for me, that's kind of what, you know, works for me. I love sort of getting between the magic tricks, which is why I think I'll always sort of ramble about other stuff within the tricks as well. The quest to get better, absolutely. It's nice if someone takes the time, but they don't have to watch, or are you putting a gun on people's heads? Always a bit entitled, but I guess this is part of putting yourself online. Absolutely, you're always going to get it, and I think you've got to get used to it. And the first bit of negative feedback I got was when I put my DVD out, and it was a very flawed DVD, of course, years ago. But somebody was really nasty. One person actually was really, really nasty, and it was about calling me a spluttering idiot and about my lisp and about the fact I'm spitting over everybody, which I wasn't, you know, and all that. But it was really personal. And I remember reading it, and really, I mean, the feeling, it was a real trigger for me, and it took me back to being bullied at school, and I was kind of prickling and sweating, and it wasn't, you know, it was really awful. And of course, I've had a very blessed life. You know, I'm a white middle-class guy, so I haven't struggled with stuff like that very often. You know, I'm not very thick-skinned, so it really helped my fit. And I mean, this was years ago, and I researched it, and I found, and it was in some form. It was just some kid, you know. I mean, it was somebody. I'm not saying the kid's irrelevant, but it wasn't in my head. It was just a very intelligent person making a statement. And of course, you know, when I calmed down, I just went, "This is someone being a troll and wanting to be horrible," and you're always going to get that. And I think that it is nice that someone takes the time, and we can tell intention. Some people give feedback because they want to feel knowledgeable. They want to kind of steal the knowledge. And you see this on the forums a lot, and you see this why people will say, you know, someone will show them something and it'll be bang, bang. It'll be like this hammering of feedback. And a lot of the times you can tell it's just because someone wants to hear. If they're in a meeting, they would be the person that would just take over and love the sound of their own voice. Like me now, talking at you. I'm not like that in meetings, I'm not. So yeah, it's so you can see the intention as well, I think. Did anybody notice your mistake last week? Yeah, they did. So it was at the end of a routine that I'm going to talk about this because I did 2 John Allen routines. It was like a John Allen, and I was going to do a third. But I just love John Allen, the 2 things that I reviewed, one of them being the Toinkos one, down to 1, and I did the pain game. I'm going to do a different video on it, but the pain game all went. I was really chuffed. I'd done a different presentation with it. It was a real risk to do it that way, and then at the very end, I kind of exposed it because I just panicked and a thing happened. But it's different. I'm going to talk about that next time, I think. But yes, they did, but not as many people as I thought. And somebody that did notice it said to me, and that, again, someone that I can trust with feedback, said that yeah, they noticed, but they said the routine was so much fun, it just didn't matter. So that was a good thing. I didn't play it serious. 100% right to Stefan from Bralafu. Yeah, I also feel like to be especially aware of online platforms. So much is lost when you read something versus hearing it. Tone, attitude. Tell me about it. What's that saying? I didn't say she stole my money. I didn't say he stole my money. I didn't say she stole my money. Right. So hang on. Talking amongst yourselves. I've written something here, and you're not going to be able to see it hardly because it looks like a 5-year-old's written it because I'm rushing and panicking. But I didn't say he stole my money. If you emphasise each word of that, you emphasise it's a completely different meaning, all right? I didn't say he stole my money, meaning it wasn't me, it was someone else. I didn't say, I didn't or did. I didn't say, but I could have typed it, I could have written it somewhere, I could have texted it. I didn't say he stole my money, but it could have been her. I didn't say he stole my money, but they could have borrowed it, or they could have actually asked for it and I've forgotten. I didn't say stole my money, but they stole someone else's money. I didn't say stole my money, but they stole someone else. So every single one of those words emphasised differently, which is so rare in emails and texts and online, means a completely different thing. So I think it's really fascinating that, and tell me about it, if you ever go through, this is a word of wisdom, if you ever, and I hope you don't, if you ever go through a separation, a divorce, something that's unfriendly for a while and emotions are high, don't text each other. Don't do it. Always talk. Don't, because it's talking about that is just such a thing. You read, because again, we see the world not as it is, but as we are. When you're feeling completely raw and vulnerable, everything's awful. You're reading things into everything. Your insecurity, your self-belief, your esteem, everything can go out the window. And it did for me. And for a while, it was the world was not a pretty place. And actually, part of when I got out of magic was seeing the negative in everything and not the positive in this wonderful community. Curious to know if it was when you handed the spike back to Spectator. Yeah, totally was. Only have to think about it. Didn't notice anything in the moment. Brilliant. It totally was at that point. Bless him. It wasn't their fault. It was me. I shouldn't have handed it back. I panicked. But yeah. A huge part of my design work relies on doing work that people don't like. I have to produce 3 or 4 versions of something knowing that none of them will be right. It's taken a while to be okay with it. Phil Smith. Lovely Phil Smith. Absolutely, Phil. I mean, think about what we do. Especially if we do something in a different original way. I did the pain game in a different way, and so I had nothing to compare it to, and it could have gone either way. It could have just been horrible, and it might have been, but that might not have meant that there wasn't something in it. And I think that even if we do something that is no good or is virtual or is a kind of prototype, we to learn to be all right with that is really important. And I read a lot about this. I read a lot about, writers, books on writing, and saying your first draft is just, that's what it is. Don't judge that. Just get it on the paper. The work is after that. So don't judge whether it's good or not by your first draft. Get your first draft out and then make it good. And I think that's the same with a lot of stuff. And yes, sometimes that failure may be in front of other magicians, and it may be at a convention. And that the other day, and it's happened before, I failed to get out of my straitjacket once in front of my family, and it was awful, but at the time it was, and I was gutted on Thursday night afterwards, absolutely gutted, especially because the whole routine had gone quite well. That last moment I just panicked, and I kind of went, but I was really beating myself up about it, but the next day it didn't really matter. My hair's looking so good, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I had a good hair day today. If YouTube with a well-known channel asked to comment, And if it's polite feedback to help him, he has a go at you on his next video. I won't say who, as I will be on his next video. I wonder who that is. Yeah, I don't know who that is. I'm terrible at watching other people's stuff. I just have no time. I've got a big box of review stuff there. It sounds like a dream. Be careful what you wish for. I ended up buying Down to One. Do it, man. Down to One. I was so nervous. It was my opener, and I'd never done it, and I wasn't feeling that confident. And I didn't do it that well, you know. I messed up the explanation of it at the beginning, but it was a lot of fun. I'm so looking forward to doing it now. I've done it once, and I know it works. It's great. I've always loved the paint games. Brilliant. I think it's great. David Smith, thank you so much for all you do. Thanks, David. And do look up Down to One. Yeah, check out my review. As a magician, when I watch other magicians, I better keep it on time. We've got Steve Reynolds in 25 minutes on the course. As a magician, when I watch other magicians, I can be critical of how they perform an effect because I know the method. But I realise, who am I wanting to perform? For magicians trying to really interesting. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. When I see someone doing really well, on like, I've internalised it. I don't say it because I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm jealous, right? You know, I see someone doing something that I know I can do. Classic thing is Britain's Got Talent. I'm not about someone like Ryland. That's incredible. That's a 9-year-old kid, right? That's, yeah, hats off. I couldn't have done that at 9. I did a talent show at about that age and I was a bit younger, but I did a Margaret Thatcher impression and a Benny Hill story. No, a Les Dawson story, and started crying halfway through and left. And a David Bellamy impression, but anyway, showing my age. So yeah, well done. But people on Britain's Got Talent, if I see someone doing like a generic kind of thing, there's part of me inside that goes, well, I could have done that, you idiot. But and then I know what it is, and I think, good on them, you know. So we do, as magicians, we can get all of these things that happen, which are totally human, jealousy, you know, that thing of putting someone down, that whole thing of nobody loves a winner, you know, someone's successful, everybody starts ripping them apart. And, you know, Dynamo's a classic one. Everybody's slagging off Dynamo all the time. He's great. You know, it's like, yes, it might not be hilariously funny all the time, but that's why he's watchable. And it's not really my sort of thing, a lot of the magic, but he's successful, and that's kind of what he does. So, you know, it does nothing but good things for magic. So yeah, and we can't unsee stuff. We're magicians. We're so biased, and even if we try not to be, we are. And it's really good to go, what is this? You know, we've all had that thing when a family member goes, so this guy in Britain's Got Talent, he was doing this, and you just go, you know, it's just cartoon or something like that. And it's so tempting to say that. Oh yeah, everybody does that. But, you know, we mustn't kill it. I have a YouTube channel and Insta account, so I want you to check it out so I can send you, shall I send you on the chat? I'd like to review from you, that will help me so much. Begging Brothers. Okay, I'm really overwhelmed with review stuff. Best way to email me, steve@onlinemagic.co. I am completely overwhelmed with stuff at the moment. I'll keep doing that, as if you can see. So it's going to be months before I can get to much more. And of course I have to prioritize certain things because I have to link it with release dates and stuff. But yeah, just send me an email. My target audience is lay people, not other magicians. I take critical comments from other magicians with a grain of salt. Yes, as you should. And there are two different things. I'm terrible at performing for magicians. I get really nervous. It isn't how I came into this world, so it always feels odd to me. But it's a different thing. You're kind of demonstrating for magicians, aren't you? Yes, you might want to try and fool them and stuff, but for me it's not. It's kind of like, you know, you're going to see the signs of me with a top change coming and things like that. Different effects in that case, absolutely, Artemis. Yeah. It was my girlfriend you chose at the end of the Down to One routine. Oh, was it? Oh, nice. She was great. She was really great fun, and I'm glad. We all know this YouTube mentioned magic come out. Anyway, I won't say the word. Right, 40 minutes talking about people that bang on. Thank you though for so much for your input. It's I love it. I'm not looking at the camera's kind of miles away from the screen. That's why I look like I'm not talking to you. Thank you, and if I've missed anything, I do apologise. So I hope that's useful. If you think this is, it would be lovely if you were to give it a little review or a mention on one of the forums. Of course, I don't want to go on there and go, oh, I made a brilliant video. Not saying it's brilliant, but I'm not saying, but I'm biased, aren't I? I'm the other way. I think all my stuff's weird and terrible, and why would anybody watch it? But what I'm saying is I don't like doing that too much. It feels a bit weird. But if you think it would be relevant and helpful to some people, do feel free to share. It'd be lovely, even verbally, to people. Again, if you haven't done it and you like the channel, please do subscribe to it and like the video. And check out onlinemagic.co if you want to hang out with me every week and watch hundreds of videos. But since 2013, just put a rope magic course on there, as I said, an introduction to rope magic. And there's a coin magic one, there's loads of stuff going on. So do check out that, it'd be really lovely of you. Take care, have a great one. Free courses are below as well, there's a couple of free courses. And thanks so much for your support. See you later, bye.